I'm Tracy. This is my daughter Robin, and we are Salted Words. We like to talk on Tuesdays. We like to
Yes.
have guests that we can learn from, that we can hear really great testimony, any number of things. We like to talk about all kinds of things, and Tuesday is a good day for it.
Yes, I am so excited for today because normally how we do our podcast is we come with a list of topics that we want to talk about. And so we kind of know what we're going to talk about, but today is just completely free.
Yeah,
So
we usually are super organized and we have a list of topics and questions and we go through them, the things that we're really curious about,
yes.
and we feel like all of you would be really curious about. So this we're we're just winging it on this one. We're just
Well, that's
gonna
kind of
let it
how
roll.
testimonies go. So this is Jordan's personal testimony, and it is, what she's been through in her life, and we can't script that. So
Have we seen her yet?
I think so.
So you got anything else?
Well, I do have a couple of things. We are always, probably until the life of this podcast, going to be working on our affiliate program. We would love to work with anyone who is watching. If you guys want to be an affiliate of Salted Words, to message us and let's work together. We're always bouncing off ideas. We do custom apparel, we do signs here, and we are building our website every single day. So, yeah.
We have a printer, a direct to fabric printer. Sky's the limit.
Yes.
Whatever you would want printed, we can create that. We work with several people now. We would love to work with several more. So yeah, get a hold of us if you need custom apparel, hats, wetsuits, t-shirts, tanks, sports apparel. If it's apparel, we can put something on it if you'd like something on it. So
Yes. So reach out to us. We'd love to chat with you. I saw Jordan pop on. She's invited. We need that little sound like doo doo doo.
we need the Jeopardy clock.
Yeah.
I heard.
Hello.
Hi, how are
Hello.
you?
Good. How are you?
Nice to meet you, Jordan.
And nice to meet you too.
I don't
Thank
know
you
if
for
you heard
having
our
me.
yes. I don't know if you heard our intro about you, but
I
I
did.
think
I
you.
hopped on and I clicked the request button, but I didn't know if I did it right. But
I think it's still very fairly new, at least it is to us, to go live in this way, to do a podcast. So we learn stuff every day. We've never seen someone actually request to join us. So that was awesome.
oh,
Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah.
But thanks for
So
that sweet intro.
yeah, we're excited to hear what you have to say. You are our first guest that we haven't done any legwork for. We haven't done anything. We haven't.
We've just been excited.
We've just been excited.
No, yeah, I definitely have a different story. It's a highs and lows kind of story. There's a lot of ups, a lot of really hard parts of it. Um, but there's a lot of beautiful things that God has worked through in that. And, as hard as it is sometimes for me to talk about, I love to talk about it because I know God speaks through it and can use it. And it's who I am. It's who God's called me to be, a birth mom. And, I that's my heart, and that's what I'm gonna continue to speak about and pour into other people and share. Because it's not something that a lot of people know about.
Would
But
you like to give us just a short intro, a short bio, so we can get an idea of who you are, and then you can jump into it?
yeah. So my name is Jordan. I am 22. At 21, I found out I was pregnant and went through a really challenging pregnancy, mainly alone. I had a wonderful family that supported me and loved me. I felt God calling me to do adoption throughout my entire pregnancy, and I hated it. Before finding out I was pregnant, I was not walking in a life that reflected the Lord. I did not think about Jesus. I did not pray. I did not go to church. I'd grown up in the church my entire life, but I had really strayed away really far. And during my pregnancy is what woke me up. I tell people all the time that I feel like I was dangling on a cliff, and God reached out his hand when I found out I was pregnant and kind of walked me back into the path that I was supposed to be. And I don't think my pregnancy was God showing me mercy, but I think it was his way of using what the enemy meant for evil and him meaning it for good. And so I woke up one day in my pregnancy and regave my life to Christ and started going to church. I showed up to a church all by myself, 8 weeks pregnant, and a whole new church because I was too embarrassed to go to the one that I grew up with. And I started, renewing my faith with the Lord and making a whole new group of friends, kind of fixing that relationship with my family while still going through an unplanned pregnancy. And so, month after month, week after week, I would meet with caseworkers. I would think and pray about adoption. And I hated it. I cried every single time that I left that agency. And so, as I'm getting more and more pregnant and having to make a decision, I finally just knew that this is what God was calling me to do. I still wanted to deny it. I wanted nothing to do with it because, whoever looks at their life and thinks, oh, yeah, one day I'm going to have a baby and I'm going to have to pick out parents for my child. And so it's just not something anybody ever thinks about. And it was hard, but I had God show up in multiple different areas throughout my pregnancy, pointing towards adoption, meeting adoptees, going to pregnancy resource banquets and having people share their adoption stories. Like that just doesn't happen every day. And so God just kept pointing. And by the end of it, I had to step back, and for a few weeks, every single day, I literally was like, if I take away my human flesh, emotions, feelings, selfishness, what I want, what Jordan wants here on this earth, it's to keep my son because that's what's going to make me feel good and that's what's going to keep me whole. But then I stepped back and I had to put my perspective back down to where it was supposed to be and say, what does God want and what is going to build his kingdom and honor his will for my life, for my son's life, and everyone else around me. And looking at that, I ultimately knew like my human fleshly emotions were, of course, going to tell me what I wanted to hear. And I was ignoring what I knew that God was telling me to do. And so I did adoption and I became a birth mom, and it was the hardest day of my life, and the day before had been the best day, and so it was rough. And afterwards, I fought a lot with my relationship with God. It was, if my God is so good and so loving, why do I have to feel this pain? And that pain still sticks. That pain still is there every morning that I wake up, every night that I go to sleep. I long for that missing piece of me, which was my son. But I also know that this was God's plan and that my pregnancy was not a mistake. But the pain and the sadness and the grief that I deal with is kind of a consequence for me choosing to put myself in a situation where I wasn't supposed to be. Um, but again, like I said, like what the enemy meant for evil, like God turned it back again and meant it for good and was able to bless me, bless my son, and bless another family, bless my family. And it's been able to touch other people. But again, it is not an easy path. I didn't know what a birth mom was 2 years ago. I didn't know what really adoption was. And my whole pregnancy, I told myself I wasn't strong enough to go through this, that there was no way that I was going to be able to hand my baby off, that there was going to be no way that I would be able to wake up and walk out that hospital without my child. But again, like God continued to show up. And one day leading up to all this, I just stopped in my tracks, and all I could feel and hear inside of me was Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. And that verse is what gives me the strength, the motivation, the perseverance, the resilience, the tenacity to wake up each morning and fight, because I'm not living for my time here on earth. I'm living for my eternity in heaven. And the decisions that I've made for my son, the decisions I've made for myself is pushing towards that. It's going to give my child the best opportunity to one day meet Jesus. It's giving my walk with the Lord a stronger foundation to hold on to and build towards. And, you know, I share my testimony because I constantly tell myself it's selfish of me to keep this to myself, when I know that someone pouring into me with this when I walked through it would have been a light to me. And I did have some amazing people that poured into me. But I think this area of things nobody wants to talk about. It's uncomfortable, it's hard, it's sad, it's icky, and it's dark. But I think, you know, God's pouring out through that. And I want to be able to show that young women that do find themselves in this situation, like, you are strong enough. You were created for this. You were designed with purpose and value and beauty. And as a woman, you have the ability to get through this. And God will guide you because it's not your own strength, it's His. And that's just my heart. And sorry, that was a lot, but that's me. That's a little bit about the past year and a half of my life. Obviously, there was a lot that led up to me finding myself to get pregnant. Um, I was just not living with the Lord, but you know, God was able to kind of rewrite my story a bit.
Well, I think that, in this current environment, it's people don't want to talk about the hard things anymore. And even if it's a testimony that could, grow the kingdom of heaven, people still don't want to because there's so much, opinions out there. And so, I mean, I think that, sharing your testimony and exactly what you just said, like, it's meant to be heard. God doesn't give us testimonies because our life is always.
Okay, wait, I can't hear you. Hold on.
Sorry, can you hear us now?
It was me or what happened, but now I can
Okay.
hear you.
Okay. I didn't anticipate this, but I think we'll end up going in reverse order because I have a lot of questions now. I'm. Is that okay? Is it
Please ask
okay?
away.
Um, this is so interesting. I've never talked to someone that has gone through quite what you've gone through and attributed it to God. And we live in a culture that thinks, for some reason, that has this idea of God that He's this soft uncle, grandpa with a long white beard, and He would never do anything that we wouldn't like. He's the heavenly butler, so to speak. And I think that it's interesting that you became very certain that this is what God wanted you to do. Whereas it would seem that God would never want you to do that. And God knows the future of our lives as well as the past and the present. He goes before us. And I think that that is very interesting because some of the most difficult things in our life have a whole lot to do with God and our learning and our growth. At what point do you feel like that you were absolutely certain? Was it from the very word go? You knew you just didn't want to believe it?
See, that's like, it's so hard because in every moment where I felt like God showed me something that pushed towards that, I wanted to deny it. Um, there was about three really big things that happened that I was like, okay, One of them, again, was that pregnancy resource banquet I went to. I didn't want to go. My parents dragged me to this, and we sat right in the front at this table with this woman that I had met there that introduced me to her daughter that had just gone through an unplanned pregnancy too. And so she's introducing me sitting there, and I was probably like the only like young person there. I was miserable. It was like all these older people like trying to give money to this banquet. Well, we're sitting there having dinner, and their speaker that night was an adoptee, and they had never had an adoptee before. And he gets up on stage, talking about his adoption story, how his mom chose life for him. He was older. I think he was in his 40s. He's married now, has kids, has adopted as well. And he's like a musician. And so he sings, plays, and goes and travels and does this. And he gets up there and he plays this song that he wrote for his birth mom. And there was like a video playing in the background with it, and he's sitting up there singing, and I just started bawling my eyes out because I hadn't had or seen the perspective coming from someone who was adopted honoring their mother who had placed them. Because I mean, I grew up with friends that were adopted, but in my head adoption meant, oh, they were adopted from like internationally or something. I didn't understand it.
Yeah.
And I sat there and I cried. And every single time now that I hear that song, I cry. And I thought it was such a blessing because to this day, he never met his birth mom, but he honors her. He talks about her. He prays for her, all these things. And um, I don't know, I felt God kind of tug at my heart in that moment. And that was kind of the first kind of big signal that I had felt. Um, One of the others was later down my pregnancy. I had started going to these like worship nights at church by myself. And I had actually run into some friends that I went to elementary school with that I had literally not seen since like fifth grade. And they all invited me out to dinner after. And we're all sitting there, and I'm sitting over on the side with the girls. And, you know, I'm visibly pregnant at this point. And one of the girls asked me, was like, oh, are you like so excited? Like, can you not just wait? And I hated being asked that during my pregnancy because internally I knew that I wasn't able to experience that joy and excitement of having a baby, because my body already knew what I was going to have to do. And I just hadn't accepted it yet. And I remember looking at them and kind of crying and being like, you know, I think I'm gonna have to place my son. This is why. And I feel like God's calling me to do this. But I was like, you know, I love my son so much that I also know that making a hard decision is because I love him. And I want to be the best mom for him. And so I'm gonna make the harder decision on me so that he can have the amazing life that God wants for him. And I remember sitting there, and one of the girls starts getting all quiet. And then there was a guy at the end that started like saying stuff. And they both just looked at me and they were like, we were adopted. We've never met our birth parents. And you just made us feel so loved. And I don't know what it was. But again, I felt God kind of just like hold me close and was just like, hey, like this could be your future child down the road, you know, like this could be your son one day, you know, spending his Friday nights at a worship night and then fellowshipping with friends afterwards because of the decision that you're making, and seeing them where they're at in their life, loving that and honoring God with that, that gave me hope. And so I kept pushing through. There was a time when every single day, I think I had mentioned, I journaled, and I didn't want to talk about the adoption. I didn't want to think about it, but every single day I woke up and I journaled, what does Jordan want? What do I want for myself? What would make me feel good? And every single day I wrote, I want to parent my son. Then I wrote, what do I feel like God's calling me to do if I align myself with his will? And every single day I wrote, place my son with an adoptive family. And I would sit there and write all my feelings. And I go back through and I look at that journal all the time because like every page. It's just like God speaking so loud on that. Um, and my whole pregnancy as well. Like there was a verse when I had first kind of like gave my life back to Jesus that I interpreted really wrong for a really long time until one day I woke up and I was like, this is not what this means. But it was a verse in Mark, and it's basically saying, like, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you've already received it and you will. And in my head, I'm like, all right, God, like, I'm praying this. I want it. I need it. If I believe that I can have it, then you're going to make it happen. And one day I woke up and I was like, hold on, like, I'm praying for what I want. Like, of course, like in my head, I'm gonna think this is what it's gonna happen if I believe that, whatever. And then like you go on to read the rest of the verses that follow through, and I'm like, once I align my heart, my mind, my spirit, everything with God's will, of course everything that I pray for will happen because God's will always prevail. And until I was able to switch that mindset, I was thinking truly with such blinders on, only seeing what Jordan wanted, only seeing what I felt like was going to be good for me, what was going to make me feel better, and all these things until finally I was able to take that off and see all the things that God was putting around me by meeting people, hearing speakers, listening to podcasts. Like every single day, God showed up in some way. And until I was able to like flip that switch and realize like, you know, I can never be taken down. I can never be stopped. I can never be disappointed when I'm walking in the path that God's already wrote for me. And everything that I pray for in that way, everything that I need will be provided. Everything that I ask for will be given. Every door that I'm going to knock on is going to be opened. And so that is what really shifted my heart and my mind. And some days I wake up and I'm like, I don't want to think like that. I'm human. Of course, I'm gonna want to be selfish some days. It's a daily submission to do that, but it is hard. But there is so much freedom in doing that. And I was able to see God really show up and just like shine so bright in that area of my life. And even getting through that day at the hospital, like God was there in every one of those moments, as much sometimes as I want to deny it, because I hate that day. But I also know God was so vibrant that day because, again, like I was leaning off his strength, not my own. And in that moment of my weakness, God's strength was made perfect. His beautiful will was able to prevail. He was able to flip that coin from what the enemy thought was going to be so, so bad and ruin my life. God was able to shine it in such a beautiful way. And that day changed my life and changed so many people around me. And that was God. And I can't deny that. I can't change it. I don't want to change it. People ask me all the time if I could go back in time and do things different. Of course, my selfish human being wants to say yes because I long for my child. But at the end of the day, I still look at everything and I know, who am I to question God's will? Who am I to change the path that He's wrote? Yes, I have the ability to make my own choices, but that's also how I ended up in that situation. And so I don't know. I was able to really see that. And that's what gets me through. And that's where I felt like God was pointing out, hey, this is the path that I want you to go down.
So, um, was the father of the child, were your parents, was everyone on board, or was this you and God working this out and then those decisions came later? Were
Um, so I will say there's a few things I can't talk about
It's okay. I
regarding
understand.
that stuff. But my family was very supportive. They never wanted to push their views or opinions onto me because at the end of the day, this had to be my
Yeah.
decision. Um, you know, we would have a lot of conversations about it. They poured a lot of love and support into all of it. Um, it's definitely been a hard thing for my whole family, not just me. So they walked day by day with me, step by step, all through it. They were with me like every way.
Mhm.
And it's been hard on them a lot, for sure. Because, you know, I'm missing and longing for my child. They're missing and longing for a grandchild. You know, my brother's missing and longing for a nephew. And my grandparents, the same, everything. And so it has been really hard on my family. Absolutely. But they can also see the joy and the love, where now our family is just kind of extended, because we know that he is healthy, happy, safe, and being so loved. Um, but yeah, I mean, that decision truly did have to be fully placed on me. But so that's why I had to have God hold my hand and walk me through that,
Well,
because
and
no one else could.
as yeah, as a parent of adult children, as your parents, I I can't imagine how I would walk through that. I don't know. It's very interesting. And again, you know, God doesn't have us do things that we only like, that we're only oh so willing. God walks us through very, very difficult things in our lives. He certainly does.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful that you've accepted God's will and you're grateful for it and you don't argue with God. I can't say that that's always been the case for me.
Oh, I mean, and I will say, it is not a golden, perfect, sunshine, rainbow path. It is not. Um, it is hard and it is rough. There is still anger, there is still grief, there is still sadness, confusion. Um, but try not to cling to it. But I will say, some days it is really hard. And I don't want to mislead anybody thinking that this is an easy path, because it is not. Being a birth mom is very hard, it is very isolating. Um, you feel very out of place in the world, because there's not a lot of light shown on that side of adoption. You see the other side where it's beautiful, exciting, honorable, all these things, but then there's still this other side of that's not talked about, not supported, and it makes it very hard to not find yourself some days really like, I don't want to say angry with the world, but you kind of get upset. I get upset. Um, so again, I trust God's plan. I trust God's will. I cling to that. I know that there's no other way, but I'm still human. I'm gonna still feel those rough, painful feelings because we live in a sinful world. It will never be gone while I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
I know one day it will be, and that's what I hold on to. That's where my hope is. Because on this earth, at least for me, in a very, very like vulnerable statement, it's hard for me to find hope in what like my future can bring me here on this earth. It is hard to have hope in knowing that maybe one day I will have a family and get married and feel whole in that piece that I'm missing. But you know, I know that that hope is also found in Jesus and only there, but it is not easy to always see that, and it will never be. So this path for me, it's not perfect. It's not always happy. It's not always strong. Um, but again, like God provides me the strength when he knows that I'm hitting that low spot.
This may be something that you can't talk about, and I understand. I hope that you say no. I can't.
No,
No,
yeah,
I
I
don't know.
will
I
always
really
say that.
don't know. I really don't know anything about your position and how it all works. Were you able to say yes or no to prospective adoptive parents. Did you have any part in that?
Yeah.
Oh, that's,
So, yeah, I will be very brief on this, but I did get to pick out my son's parents.
I may not make it through this podcast. Oh,
I did, and
that's beautiful.
the only thing I will say about them is they God picked them. God knew them. God, before I was even a thought of existence in this world, um, God knew that my son was going to be all of our sons. And I am beyond grateful for them. And they loved me, prayed for me, honored me um, before they even got to love my son. And I will forever be grateful for that.
That's beautiful. Are you in a relationship with them now?
I can't speak on that, but they're amazing. They are.
That's beautiful. That is, you know, that also, even though God takes us through stormy waters, what He has in store is always so much better than what we would do for ourselves.
Well, I think too, I don't, I think you're right. I don't think it's fair. You don't ever hear like your side of the story of, I think most time when you hear of adoption, it comes from, like whatever the craziness is. So to shed light that it doesn't always have to be from like a really dark perspective or, you know, like your son is going to be loved,
Yeah.
like extremely loved by you. And I believe that babies know that.
And
They
I
know
hope
that
and
they're
pray
loved.
that. But no, yeah, I think the hardest thing too is also seeing that there's this missing side of seeing the other side of adoption as well in like the church. And that's where my heart's been pouring a lot too, is like there is a lot, again, love, respect, honor, excitement, appreciation, and push towards, adopt, be an adoptive family.
Mhm.
And I think it is such a beautiful thing. And I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful for all those families that have that heart that God's given them for this. But there also needs to be that same heart and love and care and honor and respect towards that birth mom, too, because she made a really hard, selfless decision. No matter what the circumstance was, that baby still was born and brought to this earth through a mom, through a woman who was pregnant and chose to go through with a pregnancy and to give life to a beautiful baby, and make a really hard choice. And that needs to be talked about more. But again, it's not, because it is a hard thing to talk about.
Mhm.
And I don't know why I want to talk about it, because it sucks. But I also know that God's given me the strength to some days really talk about it. And like I said, not every day I can, but God gives me the strength some days to pour that out, to share that, to love on other people, and to, you know, create awareness to what a birth mom is. Because I'm
Yeah.
not even going to lie to you, the first time I went to an adoption agency, I thought it was foster care. Nobody taught me anything about adoption, like in school. Like they teach you about abortion, they teach you about parenting and all that kind of stuff, but they don't teach you about adoption. And like actually in North Carolina, it's not even written in the like health education class curriculum for public schools. Like adoption is not a requirement to talk about in that class. Everything else is, but adoption is not. And so, that's my heart. I want that to be changed. And, again, adoption is a part of our world because we live in a sinful world. I don't think in a perfect world there would be adoption, because there wouldn't be fertility issues, there wouldn't be miscarriages, there wouldn't be loss, there wouldn't be pain and grief. And so I think God blessed the earth with the ability to adopt, because again, it's a way to still honor him, honor life, and honor another family. Um, but again, right now, it's not something that somebody wants to talk about. It's not a thing that a lot of the younger generation knows about. Um, and it's a huge thing that coming from the birth mom, that side of it, don't want to talk about. Because again, it is uncomfortable. It is hard. When people say things the wrong way, it can really rub a birth mom the
Yeah.
wrong way. And so I've had to kind of toughen my skin for it because, again, not everybody knows. Somebody could still be very respectful and say something and it rubs somebody the wrong way because they're like, well, I didn't do that. I didn't feel that way. And so I've had to kind of teach myself to know that not everybody's words mean what they're saying.
Right.
But that's kind of why a lot of people won't talk about it.
Well, right. Along with, what we kind of touched on earlier is people don't want to talk about the hard things for so many reasons.
Yeah.
Some people's, they don't want to hurt feelings or they don't want to be like, oh, well, I'm going to get in trouble for that. Or, they just have no knowledge on the subject at all instead of just, thriving for knowledge and better understanding. And, in your case, a testimony that is for Jesus Christ, like the savior of, like, what else are we even doing? So it just, I don't know. I think that talking about hard things has to come back to the surface, and we all
End up renewing my lease at my place. And so then I stopped doing it. I've also had a lot of like surgeries and health problems to where it's really hard for me to do it. And this whole like 11 months almost post placement, I've been trying to find a job. I've been trying to figure out what to do with my life, and I can't get a job. Everything, every door that I've tried to walk through has been continuing to be closed. And God has this like pushed this on my heart so much, but I'm just kind of waiting for him to open that door for me to find out where I'm supposed to go with that. Because I used to do a lot of it in high school, actually. And so there's a part of me that wonders if God let me do all of that to kind of like gain some confidence, gain like that love for and the passion for serving and helping and pouring in because I loved that. And so that would be, my passion. But again, like I don't know where God's calling me yet.
He does though. He just hasn't. He's growing you up to place
No,
you.
yeah.
His timing is perfect. So let me ask you this. This I think this is an important question for everyone. We live in a culture in a time where abortion is at the forefront, whether it's for or against. It's in politics, it's in culture, it's in, you know, conversations and advice for young girls. And it's just such a it's just a very prevalent topic. We'll say that. Was that ever on the table for you?
No.
That's good.
But I will say it was heavily pushed on me by a lot of people in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the friends that I was surrounding myself with, um, when before my pregnancy and like during the beginning of it, um, was pushed a lot, was talked about constantly. There was a lot of negative comments pushed on me about it, and a lot of judgment about not getting it. It was never something that I was going to do. Um, did I think about it? Of course, I'm human. But did I ever plan on doing it? Did I ever, um, you know, research where to go and how to do it? No. Um, I I ultimately already knew how I felt about it. Um, I knew that it was killing a life. I knew that it was not honoring the Lord, even though I wasn't walking with the Lord at that point. Um, I knew it wasn't right. So it never really was something that it was fully on the table for me ever. But it was hard because everyone else I was around, it was such a normal, easy thing that there was no question. Why don't you do that? Um, so yeah, that was tricky because again, like everyone that I thought was my best friend and that I was close to, that I trusted, that's what I was getting pushed towards. And I've lost a lot of friends because of that. I've lost, you know, some beautiful relationships that I thought I had over, not getting an abortion or not supporting it. But that was tricky because especially with my age of, girls and everything, it is such a strong thing that it's such a normal thing that people don't think twice about.
Mm-hmm.
But I never felt that way.
That's good. It definitely has a stronghold in America. I hope and pray that this up and coming generation, like my grandkids, I have a lot of hope that they will do away with it as a normal practice. I um I had an experience that showed me very clearly that people will love you right into the abortion clinic. And it's such a strange situation, you know? That's a conversation for another day, but I am always curious about that, especially in your story. And I believe you that you lost friendships over it. I'm I'm sorry to hear that. Hopefully one day soon, one day on the horizon, we'll see the tide change with that. I think we're
Yeah.
seeing indications of it. And, God just may be using you to help change the tide because you're
Um,
right. It's not, there's, for whatever reason, there's a certain amount of shame connected to somebody giving their baby up for adoption when there shouldn't be at all. There should be shame connected to abortion, not adoption. And God forgives and God works through any and can work through any situation. I don't know that a woman, a girl that has found herself in dire straits in her own mind should spend the rest of her life in shame. I don't believe that either. I just think that as a country, we could rethink the whole situation and focus on life rather than
no, absolutely.
something else.
I just think, I think the shame is in the fact that when being a birth mom and choosing to place your child, the shame comes because knowing that no one will truly ever understand what that was like. And so, people shaming on that, it's because they truly cannot comprehend what that choice
Yeah.
was. Because every outsider looking in is going to be like, oh, they gave their baby away. Oh, they didn't want to keep their kid, or they just like handed it off and it wasn't like, no, 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 no. Like, if I would not be able to sit here right now and say that it's not like no one can comprehend it unless you've walked through it,
Yeah.
um to that exact point. There is still going to be shame around all of that because again, like we live in a crappy sinful world where there is constant pain, there is shame because the enemy puts that onto all of us because shame, fear, those things do not come from God. But like the understanding, the capacity to truly understand what that choice is. Not every single person is ever going to be able to understand that. And so there's going to be judgment, there's going to be confusion. They're going to look at it and be like, well, why didn't you just do abortion? Like, why would you choose to do that?
Yeah.
But again, there is this part of it that is not going to be able to be understood.
Mhm.
And that's what makes it so isolating. But
Yeah. There was I can't remember her name. Maybe I'll tag her later. It's an old saying. It's beautiful and it's gotten me through a lot of dark moments. People would like to say the right thing, they don't know what the right thing is. And that is just like a general understanding for, I think that you have a lot of grace, generosity, and mercy on people. It sounds like to me. And for people listening, you don't get to always stay in the rose patch with people. There's going to be things in your life that are controversial. God's going to take us through things that people just don't understand at all, and if you are certain with God and you are sure of your place with God, that's all you need to lean on.
No, yeah, something I had to tell myself too a lot is I live for an audience of one. And as much as this world constantly want us to compare, you know, see who has this, who has that, who am I trying to please? Like, I want to say the right things so everybody likes me, or I want to have this many followers, so I'm never going to try to say something to get canceled. But, like, one day, none of that's going to be there. Your
Mm-hmm.
followers don't go with you to heaven. Your friends that follow you around and praise you,
Right.
that doesn't go with you to heaven. You know, we truly live for that audience of one who is God, our creator. And one day we're going to be face to face with him, taking account of that part of our life. And, I don't want to sit there and say that I tried to please the world over him. And again, it is hard because we are human and we want that attention, that selfish
Yeah.
desire to be loved and wanted and praised is going to be there because we want to be. I struggle with pride. I struggle with being selfish. I struggle with all those things, just like every other person in this world will too. But again, like it's a constant reminder. It's like, who do I live for and whose am I and where is my identity found in? And it's not anyone of this world. It's not my friends. It's not my parents. It's not my pastor. It's not my boyfriend. It's not my child. It's no one. It's God, because I'm the daughter of the King and my identity is found in him, and my salvation is destined in him in heaven. And so my audience is him, not the world. And so if I walk around trying to please everybody, if I try to satisfy what everyone wants and say the right thing, like, I'm never going to be happy. I'm never going to be fulfilled. I'm never going to feel true joy. I'm going to be stuck in this cycle of shame, guilt, fear, confusion, comparison, all those things. And so, like, that needs to be broken out of too.
Yeah. Yeah. That is, well, and also I do feel like God has things happen in such a meticulous way that has to be done that way for us to truly call upon his name and to find him and to get that deep hunger for him that, like, no other way could this happen other than right now.
Yeah.
And so, it sounds like that's where he had you. And sometimes that's very isolating. And that's where a lot of people break, where it's like, you know, the whole world is saying this, but here I am. What am I supposed to do? Like, I have to be without everyone. So it's not easy to do.
No. And I think right now it's hard too, as a 22-year-old, almost 23. Most of the people my age, like all my friends that I grew up with, like, they're graduating college, they're starting these jobs, they were in sororities and fraternities and go on all these trips and have all these exotic lives and stuff like this. And now I'm at this age, I've had a child, I'm a birth mom, I've gone through some other things, and I don't relate to anybody. And so that's been hard too, is like comparison between that, not feeling like I fit in. And again, like that's something that I constantly remind myself is like, I'm not here to fit in and conform with the world.
Yeah.
I'm called to be different. I'm called to walk in a different path. But that's hard because again, like I want to be loved. I want to be valued. But again, my value comes through and from God, but it's hard. And especially like right now in the generation that I live in, it's very isolating. I've met a lot of amazing birth moms, but they're all a lot older than me. And so again, like I feel like I'm a needle in a haystack where I can't really find anybody else that I can relate to that's truly in the position right now where I'm at.
Right. Well, maybe God just needs you to be there for a minute to really truly find yourself and your relationship with Him. Because I will be vulnerable, even, when I first accepted Christ, I had just had my daughter and for myself. And when I went to church, I was just like, there's no one here that's my age or knows what I'm going through or has maybe a little bit of, postpartum or has this and or is in my age group. And I just feel so alone until, God like met me there and filled that void in my heart. I didn't need what I thought I needed, wasn't what I truly needed. And until He showed me that and showed me that, His grace and His mercy on my life was like, okay, I got you. I love you. I'm ready. Are you still
Yeah.
at the same church that you were through your pregnancy?
Yes. And I'm actually, I still go to the church too that I grew up with, because I will say, actually, very early on in my pregnancy, I showed up to my senior pastor's doorstep for dinner with him and his wife and told them that I was pregnant, to ask them for prayer, godly counsel. I was petrified. I didn't know what to do. And I love them. They are so amazing. I just didn't really feel like the church was where I was supposed to be. Um, the community, I guess, like of the congregation, there wasn't a lot of younger people, so I was having a hard time like building community. But they walked through my pregnancy every step of the way with me. And again, like, I will forever be grateful for that. They actually are adoptive parents as well, and adopted when they were like to have a baby. But they have watched me grow up since I was about 2 or 3 years old. And so they loved me, prayed for me, supported me, checked in on me, were there for me through the whole thing. Um, and so I will occasionally still go there with my family, but the church that I went to when I was pregnant, yes, I still go there. Actually, the first time I went there, I walked in and I ended up crying on one of the benches out in front of the sanctuary afterwards. And one of the pastors came up to me and I just looked at them and I was like, I'm 8 weeks pregnant and I'm all alone and I don't know what to do. And I was terrified. But, I went there, I showed up, I built community, I had people that loved on me and poured into me and truly arms wide open welcomed me into that church. Because truly a church is made full of sinners. And so my fear was my sin was very visible. I was pregnant, my body was changing. And so walking into a church looking young, alone, it was hard, but I felt so welcomed and so accepted and loved on because, again, no one is perfect. We all make mistakes every single day. And I love that church. I still go there. I'm best friends with a couple of the girls that are close to my age. Like, they are amazing. And it's been beautiful to watch how God has blessed their lives through their walking in obedience to Him. And I continue to pray that one day that will happen with me. But, I have built a really good community there. My family will attend there too as well. But I'm grateful for that church. I truly am, because they walked with me every step of the way as well.
That's beautiful. So we didn't go through a list of questions, but we do like to ask every guest at the end of the show if we believe that everybody has something to throw on the table that somebody else can grab and use in their life. If you had a golden nugget that you would like to tell the world, what would it be?
I feel like the one thing that I constantly wanted to tell myself during my hard times was, I feel like so many of us pray to God asking for change, asking for help, asking for this, asking for that, and then we walk away. And I think my biggest thing now is like when we pray, when we knock, when we ask, you know, wait to receive, you know, anticipate that response. Because God's not going to show up if we're not looking at Him. And He's not going to show up with the blessings. He's not going to show up with the guidance, the wisdom, the direction when we're walking in the opposite direction from where He's calling out to us. And so I think my biggest thing is like anticipate that answer, you know, be ready, be steadfast, walk in that obedience, and God will open every door that you're called to.
That's beautiful, Jordan. It was an absolutely lovely conversation.
It was
I loved every
It was
second of it.
amazing. I loved this. Thank you so much again for letting me do this with you guys.
Yes. Yes, it was.
I may be in contact with you if I can't get this video.
Please. No, because I definitely want a copy
Yes.
as well.
Yes.
Be able to post
And once
stuff.
I get them both downloaded, I'll marry them together and then send it out as one.
Perfect.
So, but thank you again. I loved our talk,
I
and
loved it.
we'll be praying for you.
I
Thank
see
you.
abundant blessings coming your way.
Thank you. I
You're
truly
welcome.
appreciate that.
All right. It was nice to meet you, Jordan. Have a
Nice
nice
to
day.
meet you. Bye.